All right, I'm back with another edition of the story of the month. I freaking love these podcast episodes so much. I love how short and sweet and thought-provoking they are, just all in one. I hope that you're enjoying these as well. This month's story is Sara in the Beach House and comes from photographer Angela Douglas Ramsey. So this story is part of Angela's personal project that she has been working on, which you can find out more about that in the show notes. And this particular story spoke deeply to me, which I'll share more about after the reading, just a couple of short things that came up when I heard Angela's story. So visit fearlessandframed.com/054 for the show notes, and visit fearlessandframed.com/054 photos to jump right to the photos that go along with this reading so you can follow along if you want. And make sure you stick around all the way through to the end, because after the reflection questions I ask you, I've got an extra special invitation. Enjoy the story. Hey you're listening to the Intentional Documentary Podcast. So glad to have you. Around here, I'm gushing over the stories behind the pictures that we freaking love of our own lives. You know, the ones we hold as high value and iconic, because this is where photography meets real life. I'm your host, Marie Moss, and I believe that the best way to approach your photography is through your lens, your way. Through insightful conversations with photographers, I'll explore preserving life with your camera and using what lights you up to grow your brand. Let's get started. My childhood summers were spent at my grandparents' beach house. It's really on a river, but we call it the beach house. I woke up to the sound of waves crashing and seagulls chirping. I have so many fond memories of summer at that house. I learned to drive with my grandfather. I learned to crab, fish, and even gut a fish. I had to get a tetanus shot once at the hospital there from cutting my finger on a rusty knife. I explored and I spent countless hours with my grandmother. I am a grandma's girl. Some girls love their daddies and they're sad when they leave. That was me with my grandmother. I wanted to stay at her house all the time. When I started documenting her, I never realized how much closer we would become. I've heard countless stories of her childhood and what it was like growing up in a small town. She talks about owning a business and how much sacrifice they made. These talks are like little life lessons for me. So many of the things she talks about are things that I'm dealing with. She's the kindest and most forgiving person I know. I see her teaching her grandchildren about kindness and forgiving, not only by talking about it, but by doing it. When this project first started, I wanted to photograph the relationship my grandmother had with her great-grandchildren, but as time passed, I wanted it to be a story about who she is. I go over to her house or schedule an outing with her twice a month. I do find myself having a list of things I want to photograph only because I feel like some of these things are fleeting and I will miss the moment. For example, she doesn't drive much anymore. I want to document her driving. She also babysits my sister's children. I want to document that also. All the while, I am with her and making pictures, and we are getting closer. Okay, Marie speaking now. What did that story spark for you? It brought up two things for me. First, hearing Angela talk about how meaningful their beach house on the river is just reminds me of how meaningful my parents' cabin is. And I know I've spoke about the cabin many times on this podcast. It is just abundant with memories. So anytime people talk about like a family getaway destination that is like their go-to place, like that always just sparks up stories of the cabin for myself. And then the second thing was hearing Angela describe her grandmother, especially including just how their experiences at the beach house itself. I think just blending those two together brought me back to a really specific memory, which I found really interesting, and that I thought of my grandmother, my dad's mom, in their trailer, their up north property, which was on 40 acres in Gladwin, Michigan. and I can see my grandma in the kitchen, and more vividly, I can see her hands. I see her hands with a dish towel and making Mickey Mouse pancakes. So I know that's really, really super specific. And I love sharing these stories for that exact reason, because you just never know what memories will come up out of thin air that you're not really looking for. So I've got 3 reflection questions for you today, and you can see them in the show notes at fearlessandframed.com/054. And remember, go to fearlessandframed.com/054 photos to see Angela's story and the actual photos that go along with this. But here are the reflection questions. Number 1, what did Sara and the beach house spark for you? Number 2, who is a person in your life that documenting them could lead to a stronger bond? And finally, what meaningful spaces are in your life that have stories that live in your mind that you'd love to see in a tangible format? Okay, before you go, would you like to hear more of these stories and reflection prompts? Like, are they helpful? Are you spotting and seeing stories in your life that you haven't really thought about in a while? If you're saying, yes, more, please, then I am so excited to share this with you. Stories just like this will be a huge part of the new intentional documentary community coming this fall. I can't tell you much more right now, but get on the wait list to hear all the details of the new community first. Visit fearlessandframed.com/community to get on the wait list now. Our number 1 goal with this new community is to put the heart of documenting first. The stories. Not how perfectly they were recorded, but just celebrate the fact that we noticed these stories that are important to us. It's important, especially in a fast-paced world like today. In this new community, we are committed to slowing down and paying attention to the stories of our lives. And you'll use your stories as a guide to live out what matters most. Goodbye noise, hello intention. So again, get on the wait list at fearlessandframed.com/community. Until next time, stop looking so hard for your next photo. Slow down and start allowing your memory to serve up opportunities to record what matters most when you're not even looking. Have a great week. I can't wait to talk to you next time. Thank you for listening. If you've got a quick sec, leave a review. Utilize that space to let me know what spoke to you out of today's episode, what questions were sparked from you. Every single time that I hear from you, you spark ideas in me that I put right back into the podcast for you. So it's win-win, right? You can always hit me up over on Instagram at fearlessandframed is my handle. And as always, you can go to fearlessandframed.com/intentional documentary podcast for this episode's show notes and any mini mags and past show notes. All the goodness is over there. And until next time, what are you going to preserve next? Talk to you soon.